Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. With Squarespace, you can connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated, members-only content, manage your members, send email communications, and leverage your audience insights, all on one easy-to-use platform. With Squarespace, you can display posts from your social media profiles on your website and automatically post website content to your preferred social media channels for maximum shareability. Squarespace has professional portfolio designs, customizable galleries, and you can even add password-protected pages. All of their image blocks automatically scale to fit images to ensure that they always look right, and incorporate simple drag and drop tools to make sure you can get the best crop. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/CurrieGOAT to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. So this is my very first project trying pixel art, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing as usual. So I decided to hit up my friend Franco. We've done a few pieces of work together for Instagram, and he's pretty much the best person I know at pixel art. That's what we did for some of our collaborations. So after we spent a day doing some bougie shopping in London town, we decided to get some drinks and talk about it. This is like the most bootleg podcast, I guess, but we're just gonna talk about art. So I'm doing the pixel art for the first time. So back in the days when I was just like painting clothes and stuff, obviously you did the pixel sneakers for some of the Instagram posts. We did 3, right?
Yeah.
From your recollection, how did that come about?
It was restricted. Does that count? The restricted?
Restricted, yeah, that's it, yeah.
I got reposted from there, and then you saw the work from, and then that was it. It's the spot.
Because for me, I was in a space as well where like I can't afford expensive sneakers.
Oh, okay.
And like I really wanted to, and like at that point as well, I was doing like the whole like leg thing.
Yeah.
So it's like I needed like new shoes. I'm like, I'm not gonna keep buying shoes just in these Instagram posts. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
And I was like, why someone drew the shoes and that's the pixel stuff. I was like, that's exactly what I need. I got some hoodies and some shirts. And obviously the idea is that rather than painting, which is what I used to do in clothing, I want to do a bit of embroidery. My good friend Shmood, who like I've made a couple of videos with now, he's like the king of embroidery. Like all of this stuff is like
amazing,
crazy embroidery. So like I kind of want to like steal his content. So like I'm gonna. How much detail would you suggest? Because like when I'm looking at your stuff, it's like you've got just enough so you can understand it's the shoe, but also just enough that it still has that pixel effect.
I work with 100 by 100 pixels.
Okay. Yeah, shoes technically like a small thing. Is that good for something that's small?
Depends what shoe, man. Because there's so many shoes like that. Like I'll show you the Balenciaga, the Triple S. Those are just so complicated. Like so many lines you got to follow, and I was doing more of the outline at first, and then over time there's more just shapes and tone.
You did the Dior one.
Yes,
and the Dior has the monogram. Like, how was that? Because that's way more detailed than that.
Oh man, I wish I screen recorded that, because I was like drawing like the D and I don't know, like I was trying to get it right all the time.
Did you make it bigger than it should be?
No. Again, same size as I have to. That was my rule. I have to keep the same 100 by 100. So whatever I do has to be in there.
I don't know how I feel about this one. The other one that I had was like the salt threw me off, but the rest of it was good. This one, it's just a bit too tequila-y. Spicy.
I like chili, but damn.
I know, right?
What we talk about?
I don't know, bro. What advice would you give to someone who started pixel art for the first time?
Take time with it, man. Take time with it because I had to really like find out what size canvas I can work with.
Yeah.
No one's rushing you. That's the thing about social media as well. Like they want to see your work, cool, but you're in charge, so take as much time as you want.
Yeah. Do you think it's better to have like a dark outline? Because I've seen some work that doesn't have an outline, and I've seen some that does. Like, what would you say?
No. Remember, you're using the pixels itself, so maybe do the outline as a guide.
Yeah.
But then don't put in, because you've seen my work. I have like the outlines, and then I stop using them. And then when I did the one with you, the green trainers. That was the one where I made shapes, and I made brushes as well, like a chest pattern. Yeah. And I used that sort of like a gradient sort of tone. And I just found it so much better. I found it so much neater.
Okay, I think we'll stop there because my head's spinning. So finally, you guys, I actually messed around with Procreate and I really like it. So the first thing I want to do is show you guys how I made the pixel brush. It's basically just a 1 pixel brush. First thing I did was turn the spacing down to absolute 0. Next, in taper, I turned the pressure all the way down to 0 and turned off tip animation. In the grain, I made sure to turn down the movement along with the scale and also the depth. And also make sure that there's no filtering on with the grain. In wet wax, I turned the pull down to 0 along with the charge. And in Apple Pencil, make sure that the tilt is down to 0 and opacity is down to 0 as well. And in properties, make sure that the smudge is at 0, maximum size is at 0, and make sure that the minimum opacity is at max. I left a video link down in the description to how I actually learned how to do this, and they explain it way better than I did, but you should be able to follow along if you look at the screen along with the sound of my voice. Demon Slayer was the best-selling manga of 2020 in Japan. How much did it sell? 8.2 million, 18.2 million, or 82.3 million? So like I said before, this is the first time I have ever attempted pixel art. So since it's the first time, I'm allowing myself a little bit of cheating, and I took a scan. When I say scan, I mean I took a photo of the manga page, and I'm pretty much just gonna go over it just to get like the basic shapes down, and then I'm gonna have to do some embellishing, because the thing with pixel art is you don't always, from what I've seen, want to do an exact replica, especially when you're working with smaller sizes. You kind of need to infer some of the shapes alongside what you would have been doing also. What I kind of did with this was I realized that it was working for a lot of the larger shapes, but when it came to working with some of the details like the blood in the eyes, it was kind of looking a bit wonky. So that's where my, I guess, drawing skills, quote unquote, are gonna have to come in to kind of save the day on this one. To stop it from looking like a sad sack. In what year was the first volume of the Demon Slayer manga released in Japanese? 2019, 2016, or 2014? So with the basic shapes done, I was just going to add in a few smaller details like some shadows and maybe a bit more coloring. I was originally going to do the blood splatter as red because I wanted to have like a pop of color somewhere. But as I was going along, I realized that for some reason, I don't know why, something about the eyes being gray just made them look dead and soulless. As you can see, I'm going through a whole bunch of different trial and errors with the shapes of the eyes that I want to use. That's kind of where I said that embellishments was needed, because when I say until I did this pink right here, it looked horrific. But now we can move on to the embroidery. As you can see, the thread has a whole bunch of different threads in it, so you just take out one, make a loop, and then you pull it through the needle, and then if you hook that through it again, you don't have to actually make a knot on the end, and you can actually take this off a lot easier when it comes to the end of your embroidery. So luckily we did go to Uniqlo, so I've actually managed to get a hoodie, and I'm using some cross stitch fabric. This is going to be a cross stitch just because I think it will give me kind of a, I guess, a pixel art effect, because it kind of looks like squares, the cross stitches. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it through so that I've got a little bit of slack left with the fabric, and I'm going to do the diagonals all in one line going across, holding the back down and making sure that I'm going over it so I can hold it down in the back, and I'm going to go all the way across with that diagonal line that I was telling you about, and then I'm going to double back on myself after I've finished the first line. That's kind of how I did all of these beautiful cross stitches that you can see already. Went all the way to the edge, and then when I was there I just tightened it up and then went all the way back on myself. So what I'm doing now is actually stitching the cross stitch fabric into the hoodie using the cross stitch, and then the idea is I will then remove the cross stitch fabric after. There's a whole bunch of ways that I'm sure you can do this. I'm not sure if this is the best, and obviously at the end of the video, I guess you'll see how the end technique looked. But honestly, I do think that there is probably a better way to do this. I think cross stitching is actually the best way to come with the pixel art effect. However, when I'm really deep in it, I think I didn't need to sew it directly into the hoodie. As you'll see, it did cause a little bit of issues, but I'm overall quite happy with the end effect. It's quite interesting as well, like when I started doing the color details, like this little bit of pink here, it really did kind of bring it to life almost. I'm always in awe of how manga artists can use just black and white to really give depth and interest, and obviously I'm just nowhere near that skilled because I had to incorporate a lot of grey and obviously the pinks into this to make it work. But basically that's just my little description over, and now let's work on taking out these fabrics. So what I've done is I have started at the edges and I'm just literally pulling out the fabric. It actually pulls out very easily if you do it strand by strand, but one of the difficulties and frustrations that I had in the moment was basically, one, I had to use a tweezer tool because after a while my fingers just weren't able to get a grip of the finer fibers, especially the ones that were in between some of the stitching. You have to be really careful with that, and also you don't want to pull up any of the stitches, which I actually found that I did a little bit. I think another issue with using this technique is that it actually can warp the thinner lines that you get with the cross stitch, which is a little bit annoying because you spend so much time trying to get them straight, and then you know it gets wonky at the end. But like I said, I think what I might have done better off next time, like what actually might make it better next time, is if I actually do the cross stitch and then if I cut out the fabric into the rectangle and then do probably like a whip stitch around it to put it onto the actual hoodie itself, and possibly filling in the white gaps, which I've used as just white gaps for the fabric. Maybe if I do cross stitch with the actual yarn itself in a white, and then I can get like a solid patch block which I can then just add to the front of the hoodie. Yo, so as you can see, I've pretty much finished this. If I could do this again, I would change a lot about how I did this. I think I would do it where I would sew the cross stitch all of the white bits in so it's a solid block, cut that out, and then maybe do a whip stitch around it onto the jumper right after. But you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I don't think that there's any such thing as a failure when it comes to this sort of thing. If you want to see another video of me failing to do some stuff, you can see them over here or on this side, I don't know. And make sure to enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.